Good morning, everyone. This is Jeffy Kennedy, author of Epic Fantasy Romance. I'm here with my first cup of coffee. And if you're on video, you will see that I am also here with a Maine Coon kitten, although he's 2 years old, he's still a kitten, who is rather determined to be on my desk and in the middle of things. So he's just sitting here with his back to the camera so that he could gaze at me adoringly. He just sits and stares at me with this adoring expression, which is impossible to resist. Uh, yes, you're adorable. Yes. Today is Monday, September 23rd, kicking into our last full week of September. Hope you all had a great weekend. I had a good weekend. Yeah, a number of things to talk about today. One of them is about like not continuing to do things just because you used to want to do them. On the theme of just because something was meaningful once doesn't mean it has to be meaningful always. And yeah, stuff like that. My weekend, hi, baby. I got a lot of stuff done, which made me happy. I have been listening to Becca Syme's podcast. She has various conversations on the Clifton strengths and talks to different authors about how their strengths play on. And I I find it interesting because for those of you who know Clifton strengths, you like get your top five. You can get more, but um, you pay $19 to find out like your top five. And I've talked about this before because I was so perplexed that my number one was connectedness, but that makes it actually makes much more sense to me now. And then my second is input, which I don't know. I listened to the talk on that. It still doesn't make a tremendous amount of sense to me, but whatever. I had to go check it. It's my number two is actually learner, and that's the one that it was interesting hearing the conversation about it because they were talking about how learners always want to learn things, and like often write multiple genres because they like learning a new genre and all of this kind of thing. And I think maybe for me it's different because I spent so much of my early life learning that now I'm kind of done. I don't want to say I'm done, but I don't like to do a lot of research for my books. I don't like have to go in and do a bunch of new things, but I think I do learn in other ways. Anyway, the interesting one is I'm a number three achiever, and it was really cool to hear the achiever stuff. Um, Jennifer Estep uh, has, I don't know, celebrates that she and I share that achiever strength. I think she's a number one achiever, but it did help me understand why it makes me happy to achieve things. It makes me happy to cross stuff off my list. And yeah, it was definitely a good insight. I guess one thing that achievers struggle with is people are always telling them they need to relax and take downtime and not do stuff. And actually, achievers aren't very happy being that way because we're happiest when we're finishing things, when we're getting things done. So it was a good insight. And my number four is intellection. And I got some good insight onto that, particularly that I didn't know that. My friends and I often joke about it that I don't have an immediate response to things. And certainly that was true for me, like in meetings and work and stuff, people would ask me for my opinion and I wouldn't have one, but then I'll have an opinion the next day. I go away and I think about things and I come back and I be like, oh, okay, so here's what I think. And it's amusing to other people because a lot of them have already moved past it. And it's like, no, here's what I think. Apparently, the way I think through my books is part of the intellection also, but not this thing. Some of them were talking about like not being able to let go of a book, still wanting to work on it. And I think that maybe I just did a lot of work in my misspent youth on getting rid of. To me, it sounds like I almost wanted to have this conversation. It sounds to me like perfectionism. And maybe that's like a bad word to use in Clifton strengths, like, well, nobody's a perfectionist. You're just into your intellection strength. But I really had to let go of being a perfectionist if I was going to complete to anything, because I think perfectionism really stops you from finishing things, because nothing's ever perfect, right? You never get it there. This cat's just hanging out on my desk being petted. I don't know why today is that. He's kind of laid down now, so you can't see him very well on video, but he's right here. Um, Today is apparently Pet Killian morning. I did that as I was working on putting tax stuff together. I'm trying to get better about doing my quarterly taxes estimates. I'm owing a fair amount for 2023. Melt emoji. But I am getting my shit together here. Uh, Figuring taxes is just so difficult. It really, when you don't have withholding, it can be a real pain. I've talked about this before, and I am not an accountant, but yeah. So I got a lot of financial stuff done, business stuff done. I'm dipping my toe into marketing. I had a couple conversations with friends who run ads for their books. I think I rather famously tell you all that I don't do ads, and I'm kind of looking at ads. Um, I feel like I have more bandwidth to do some things, and it's like, okay, uh, I need to be a better marketer. Although one of my friends was pointing out, like from the stuff on Friday that I shared with you all on the marketing campaign that they're going to do for Never the Roses, she said you're going to have this massive, massive marketing campaign. So I'm just trying to up my game a little bit. Yeah, I'm trying. So I did that. I learned some things. There's my learner, right? I don't really like learning marketing things. I don't like marketing. So it's hard for me to get past that personal bias. But some people I know, some of my friends are so much better at branding and marketing, and it's like I could be that. I could learn this. Huh. But so it's good to get, like, not only do I love crossing things off my list, but I love crossing off things that have been on my list for a long time. I had I guess I should finish off by saying that I was listening to these podcasts while I was crunching numbers. And so that was a nice little multitasking thing. Yesterday morning, I got to catch up with my friend Susan Lee, who I had not talked to in exactly a month. We figured out it was a month. And we talked on the phone for about 2.5 hours. So we were both doing various chores around the house. So uh, we're in sync that way, and it was just really nice to catch up with her. We had a lot of stuff to share, and but she said something to me that was really interesting, because I was talking to her about the exciting news on Never the Roses, and she said, I can't remember exactly how she put this. She said, Jeffy, what's happening for you here is something that most people never ever get. And she knows better than to tell me that I should, like, take time off or something like that, because clearly my achieverness doesn't like that. But, we were just talking about the various pressures that I have on me and the stuff I'm responsible for. And she said, someone else who got this, and she was saying specifically a man. We were talking about how we wish we had wives to take care of stuff for us. Because she was pointing out, like, a lot of the stuff I'm dealing with. She said, if you were a man, you would have a wife to do that for you. And she knows, because she is a wife, and she's really struggling with getting away from doing all of the wife things. What? Now he's catching his tail. I have a cat. Cats are not useful like wives are useful. But she said if you were a man, you would have gone off somewhere and drank champagne for a week to celebrate this. Which I'm not sure that's true. Perhaps my male listeners can correct us on that. But the principle is there. That I do have all of these responsibilities and things that I have to take care of, and I also have cat hair on my face now. That's why I keep brushing off my face, which is its own reward. So, but anyway, so I think this weekend I'm going to go see a friend and do a little bit of celebrating. Um, and maybe not try to achieve anything. I do think I'm better at. Becca Syme was saying that she has that achiever, and she had a friend who take her on vacation and say you're not allowed to do on any work at all this whole time, and she was so stressed and miserable that by the end the friend said we're never doing this again. I don't think I'm that bad. If I can unplug and do nothing, I think that works great for me. Anyway, this is kind of rambling around, isn't it? Hold on. Okay. Cat is out. Hopefully less distractions now. Um, but I was thinking about how we persist in doing certain things because we once wanted to do them. I was having a conversation with a different friend about this, who was, they had taken up a musical instrument. Well, we'll use that as an analogy. That wasn't exactly it. And how they'd always wanted to learn this, play this musical instrument, and they had done it, and they felt like they were tired of it. Like they were had done it now, and they were saying, but I wanted to do this for so long, I can't just stop. And it's like, yeah, you can just stop. Just because you once loved a thing, just because you once really wanted to have, say, a particular job, um, and I think this happens to a lot of people. Like you get a job in a profession that you really like, and then after you do the job for a while, you don't want to do it anymore. And people think that there's something wrong with that you've changed your mind, and that frankly, it's just that you did it, and it's okay. Um, you can now move on. I've been trying to do some purging. My friend Megan was amused at me because she said she didn't know that I was a fall purger. Apparently, most people are spring purgers, but I get very nesty in the fall. Uh, oh, and I think I left this out entirely. So I guess I'm a little bouncy this morning. When I was talking to Susan on the phone and doing chores, one of the things I did was clean out a pack rat nest. And yeah, I don't know if I had something in particular to say about that, but it was one of my accomplishments, and all of the stuff packed in there. And pack rats are so dang cute. And I uncovered the pack rat and got to the point where and I'm talking to Susan on my earbuds the whole time, and I get to the point and uncover the pack rat. And if you've never seen one, they look like a chinchilla, very soft gray fur, great big eyes, dark eyes, liquid dark eyes. They're adorable. And this little pack rat's looking up at me, and in there were packed a whole bunch of the grapes. Longtime listeners will recall that I blamed the rock squirrels for taking all the grapes. This is where all the grapes were packed down in there. And I said, oh, there's the rock squirrel. I've uncovered her, and she was crouched down staring up at me like, what have you done to my nest? And I feel terrible, right? And and Susan said, well, you need to at least leave her the grapes so that she can survive the winter. And I'm like, there's a lot of fall left. I'm not going to leave all these grapes here. And besides, I want her gone. I don't want her. She'd built this huge nest under my garden bench, and some of my garden gloves were in there. I mean, it was, yeah, a thing. And it's full of choya and full of dog crap because she finds the dog crap in the garden, and before we pick it up and puts it there, it's all like part of the defensive techniques. Uh, and the pack rat is metaphorical of so much, right? Fall purging, purge the pack rat nest. But it was funny because Susan was, like wanting me to leave her the grapes and everything. And I said, David's going to ask me if I killed it. And she's like, no. And so, like I actually went away and let the pack rat escape and came back, and she was gone, and I finished cleaning out the nest. And when I told David later, that I saw the pack rat. He said, "Did you kill it?" I'm like, I mean, it's like he doesn't even know me. I'm like, no. And he gave me a disgusted look. He gave me that manly, you failed to kill the rodent look. But it's like, I destroyed her nest and her stores of grapes and many of my bulbs. Long time listeners may have heard me lament, where did all of my bulbs go? A whole lot of my bulbs have been dug up and were in this nest. So I don't know if I have a point to that whole story, except that I wanted to tell you all that I cleared out the pack rat nest. So, anyway, and so I've been doing purging around the house. I've actually put it on my list for the weekend to pick one thing to purge. We cleared out David's closet. And so I'm just, depending on how much time I have, I'm like picking one drawer, like a silverware drawer. You know how you just accumulate stuff over time. So I found some, I can't remember, some little memento that I have kept. And you really have to be in the right mood for purging, right? You have to be in the mood to get rid of stuff. Because if you're not in the right mood, you just end up, like looking at all the things and being like, oh, I love this thing. So I found this thing, and I don't know what it was, but we'll just say, like I have this little rock on my desk. It's not a rock, it's a clear glass thing. It used to say, if you're lucky enough to be at the beach, you are lucky enough, which is a great line, but the words wore off. And so now it's just a pretty teal stone. But isn't that, I mean, it's this lovely teal color for those of you not on video. Uh, but it was a memento like this. And I'm keeping this, but the other one was like, I no longer had an emotional attachment to it. I had kept it all of this time. And I thought, oh, I remember this being meaningful to me, but it's no longer meaningful. I don't care. And I thought, okay, so I should get rid of it if I don't care anymore. And part of me was like, yes, but it used to be meaningful. And I think that there is something to that where we want to hang on to things that now the cat wants back in. He didn't want in. He just wants the door open or wants me to come out. Uh, yeah, so I think that's like part of this thing. Like just because we used to want to do something, once we're tired of it, we don't have to keep doing it. And just because something was once meaningful, we don't have to keep it after it ceases to be meaningful. And it's okay to release those things. Um, I was talking with my friend Jim Sorensen a couple weeks ago, and I don't remember how the conversation came up, but he said something about me having my book covers framed and hanging on the wall. And maybe it was with the Never the Roses one. Oh, that's what it was. I mean, he's a niche expert in like Transformers and GI Joe, and does a lot of. So if you're on video, you'll see that I still have this glass piece in my hand. Dear reader, this is how the words wore off because I do fidget with it. It has a very nice feel between my palms and in my fingers. Besides being a pretty luminous teal color. One thing that he said to me was that I should ask to get the original artwork and have it framed, because he ends up doing a lot of stuff where he gets like the original art from like Ninja Turtles or Transformers, and they make coffee table books, and he's very good at sleuthing out like who might have it. So he said I should ask for the artist's contact information and get the original art and frame it. And he said, you probably already do that. You have your book covers framed in your office. And he saw my face and he said, or not. And I said, well, so here's the thing. Here's the story there is like with my 12 Kingdoms books, for the 5 books that I did with Kensington, I did have those framed, rather expensively framed and hanging on my office walls. And now they are down and they are in the garage on the shelf. And because they did look beautiful and it was nice. And I kind of, he's trying to come through the door. I swear it's worse than having a toddler. He did not want to come in. He wants me to come out. He's like throwing his weight against the office door. Okay, I'm just leaving the door open for him. Sorry for the disjointedness. I totally blame the cat. The cat, New Mexico weather, right? So anyway, I didn't like having my book covers on my office walls. Instead, I have, if you're on video, you can see I have lots of funky art. Because it began to feel like those book covers were the past. They were books that were already done. They were out there. I no longer had that strong feeling about them. And instead, I wanted to look at stuff that was inspiring me for the now. And so, even though I'd invested too much money in having them very expensively framed, they look very nice. If I had a bigger house, I would like have them in the rec room or something like that, but I don't. And so, yeah, I just decided it's okay to let go of those things. If you don't like something anymore, it's okay to let go of it. Um, so, yeah, all right, I'm already at 21 minutes and I've rambled on plenty. So, we'll save the. I want to talk about Sex and the City, the show. I've finally been watching it. I never did see it. And how, and the importance of female friendships. But that can be a topic for another day. Wild cat. All right. So I guess I did not over the weekend. I haven't talked about writing much, have I? I mean, last week wasn't a banner week. I kind of wish I had just gone ahead and done those first pass pages, but I did print them out. And this will make an amusing story for my archivist, but you'll see I've got 3 different colors of pages. And I did try to do double-sided with limited success. I haven't done double-sided printing. I used to be so good at that, and like all kinds of office things, and now not so much. But anyway, so here's my first pass pages, and I'm going to work on those today and tomorrow. I decided I should give this book one more read. So we won't have progress on book 2, but I decided that's okay. All of these things I'm letting go of. All right. I hope you all have a wonderful week, and I will talk to you all on Friday. You all take care. Bye-bye.